I know all of us, we're geeks when it comes to certain things. Like,
Yeah.
but I know for me, if I'm sitting around watching TV and I see the Discovery Channel or Science, whatever it is, and something pops up about the Sea Scrolls, I'm immediately zoned in. I want to. They definitely caught my interest because I want to know the how far back does that go and what does it mean and where did it start and who started it and why it is where it is now.
So you like learning biblical history, right?
Biblical history, or learning history,
or even better, I would say, the truth finding, because
it's supposed to be the most accurate.
That's what we could talk. We're going to get into that.
Now I know that we don't talk about, and I know this came up. And we'll just say it briefly. Yes, we don't talk about certain things, certain religion,
this
politics.
Pertains to an episode.
But this pertains to a totally different subject. This is the birth of it, how it started, who the people were, how they lived, things like that, and what they saw and how they saw it. And then we could always go into
we're going to end up.
So that being said, it's going to be Dead Sea Scrolls.
This is about religious history.
Kind of thing.
So,
because
this is a good subject, man.
So the Dead Sea Scrolls, like you said, that's supposed to be the original writings, and
most accurate.
So that now that's where we, of course, I go that way to UFOs. If it was the really aliens that wrote that stuff, because a lot of the, like you were telling us before, Lou, that we'll get to later on, like angels coming down, to make for the war part you were telling us about.
Well, the Nephilims.
Right. So then
we'll get to that later. Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we're gonna get to that later. But I'm saying, but like all those things are things that we've heard. What
there were some things in this that I'd never heard.
No. I'm saying like things like that about having. When people talk about like the angels coming down and doing things like that and making the new army,
we could jump right into the whole that.
Well, we're gonna go to that later, but I'm saying, but that's like what the Egyptians and a lot of the old, I say everybody wherever that there's a pyramid, that they said it was aliens that had come down and bred with the women and like you said, giants and stuff like that. So so we'll start from the beginning, Lou.
Yeah, no, listen.
And then start from the beginning because I want to get to that other stuff too.
Yeah, that stuff is interesting. So
I love that stuff.
They were discovered in 1947 through 1956 near a Dead Sea, of course. I think it's Qumran Coves. Over 900 scrolls were found.
That's insane.
Biblical and I'm sorry?
Yeah, Bible texts.
And
I don't know, you wrote that.
I know, I'm sorry, my bad. But the cord was in the way.
Yeah,
Excuse me, guys. Sect rules. So this is where you start to see different things that happen in religions.
Right.
Okay. Apocryphal, that's another one. So each one, Discovery, 1947. What was the scrolls? Biblical manuscripts. But not included were Enoch, Jubilee, Tobit. There were other Bibles that weren't included.
Right.
So, back then, these were also held for a while because people didn't want to talk about them. They would find certain things in there. And people were like, well, no. Well, that's not that because this is what we've been talking about all,
Yeah. Well, just all the things as a whole, because so many things. So if we are
it's the original,
this is,
look, it validates accuracy of the Hebrew Bible. Right. So the people who wrote this kept records of all this stuff.
Right. I'm saying that now people, and like you said, how things have changed. How people, I guess we'll say, interpret them.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's why there's now so many different sets. You know what I mean?
So there would definitely be some controversy in who thinks it's right or what they actually meant and all that. I'm sure that's going on as we speak.
Definitely. That's why we haven't heard about all of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just in what has been found, and this is me watching TV, not what you had found here for us, but that is just so many people, they're like, wait, no, like Lou just said, is that really? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I would think that probably if
it
it was what we think it was, could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, we're going to get to that subject. But you have to remember that man in its time probably they weren't that, they were definitely good carpenters and things like that, but they didn't have the technology than what we have now. And I'm sure they did things that amaze us now that they did that we had no clue you could do.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Yeah, because the carbon fiber, like you said, in the paper and things like that, now it's more accurate.
Oh, the carbon
dating,
or
the carbon dating stuff.
Yeah, the carbon dating.
Yeah. So
well, now they have AI involved now, so they think that AI thinks that it's older than what they originally thought. So twice what it was.
Yeah, because right now,
so that's how old the parchment, the paper was from that time.
Because every time they find something new and they're matter of fact, like I watched this TV show. Well, I haven't watched it in a while. Oak Island, and on Oak
would watch
Island,
that.
they keep finding things as they're digging around in there.
But they can't
that
find the treasure though, bro.
Well, no, I'm not even talking about in the money pit. I'm talking like just on the island and different things that happen on the island. They're discovering the people that were there before who we thought was there.
Right.
You know, like it was official. Like the Vikings were there first. The Knights Templar were. There's proof that they were there. And they're predating what has already been written. So instead of them being there in 1701, they were really there in 1501.
Right, they were
You know what I mean?
earlier.
Right. So then now
Based
doing the
on
same
what they
thing.
found and
So doing like I said, these Dead Sea Scrolls.
that's why I love watching that
just-
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm geek when it comes to
Oh,
that.
they're definitely doing the Carmen dating.
Yeah,
on these Dead Sea
and
Scrolls.
and for what it is now it's still, I've never heard until we started doing some other stuff. When they do the dating is CBC, something like that. CBC.
BC, right? We had before Christ,
and
after death, AD.
and there
is
was
what we
one that
grew
was
up with.
before that. There was another one that's before that.
BCC, I think it was.
BCE or EC.
Right.
And I didn't even CE. And dude, if these go back further than what we've all thought.
Think of how man was back then. I'm not saying that they were stupid.
No, that
right?
there
But
was man. They didn't think that there was man. It was like, now they're starting to say that people walk with dinosaurs.
We're only talking a few thousand years, not thousands of
Well,
years.
I mean,
We're only talking like 3,000-4,000.
Well,
It might double. Like, let's say let's say they were 2,000, so now they're originally 4,000.
Hmm.
We're not talking like and centuries onto it or anything like that.
Well, I know-
but still that they went that far back and they were
Right.
able to find that itself. And
I know the theory is like that Homo sapien is like 25,000 years old.
right,
And then you start going back towards the, earlier like man,
right. And that's the thing. So then that timeline might be wrong too.
Neanderthal.
Right. Yeah. That
Neanderthal.
Homo
timeline might be
erectus.
off.
we could be way off on that.
I always
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
We could be,
Yeah,
but at the same time, we probably could be right on shit too. At the same time,
Yeah.
when you think about it,
Definitely. And you know what's wild is how the scrolls survived that long in the caves out by the Dead Sea.
The what?
The scrolls.
Oh yeah, like how
they're
how did
found
they
by
survive?
accident.
No, but
No,
they
but
survived.
how did they not like?
the paper didn't
be
just
destroyed?
disintegrate. You know what I mean?
I know some of them is.
They
not
had a lot of
good.
those that were like that. They were like
Right.
that, but they had a lot that they were able to piece back together.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So,
Imagine
it's
doing that kind of work, and
survived
being with
that
the
long.
That's, like,
tedious little
probably-
Bro.
brushes and
cannot.
magnifying glass, right?
Yeah, no. That's that person that really loves doing
That's super
such-
geekish right there, man. No doubt.
I can't do that.
But I like those people because you know what? They're good.
oh yeah,
They,
I appreciate
they give
them.
me all the information that
Yeah.
I'm interested in knowing about. I'm like,
Hell
thank
yeah.
you.
That is great.
And I think they can probably. I mean, people might not trust it, but like AI to fill in the blanks, and some of them now they could probably get because some of them have like holes in them and they can't piece them together. Like there's missing like it's like something like you'd see in like a movie or like,
So there was one in the movie.
wait, what was it?
Blade.
Oh
it
yeah,
back.
Blade.
Yeah,
Take it
Blade.
back.
That's
yeah.
right.
Frost wanted to bring back the Mugla Goblet.
Or whatever. The
And
big-
and so that then he turned around and they had put these texts up there and he's
Pieced
looking
them
there, putting
together.
the
There's, like,
AI
missing
pieced it
pieces.
together. And then he knew what to do. And yeah, it was freaking bugged out. But yeah, I was with you.
Yeah, but
Since
no,
it's
but
Blade.
but that seriously that they have issues with those because there's
Right.
there's because of damage that there's like not full.
Yeah.
scrolls.
And that's why I bug out because it's now them putting it together that a lot of the stuff that people believe is not true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just all changed up. I'm sorry. Do
Right. No, I want to apologize because
Okay.
I was wrong what I said
Which part?
earlier.
Uh-oh.
Silver fragments previously believed from the 2nd and 1st century BCE are now dated earlier, sometimes by several decades or even a century.
Yeah. Okay.
So I take it back.
yeah. So it was more than I
That
thought
was
too,
a
though.
stupid, I don't know why I thought that.
Well, because I mean, you just it again for what we know of the
Right.
time, what we believed,
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
timeline was.
Yeah,
Like I
no,
said,
it's
that
all
this
right.
Going way
Listen,
back and whatnot,
no big
dude,
deal,
that's a
but
given.
We fixed it. We got the
Yeah.
information out.
Yes. Yes.
And I know there are people that love this stuff, man.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Definitely.
You know,
we love this.
just to
stuff,
go
man.
back
This is
and
just fun.
I
as
think
hell.
in my past life I might have been.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to be the librarian?
Oh, yeah.
I like the librarian. That's a good one.
I don't know
you
exactly that, but
Right. So now they're saying too, who wrote the scrolls? So most scholars believe they were written by or belong to the essence of apocalyptic Jewish sect that lived commonly in Qumran. I'm sorry. Others suggest a mix of sources, including priests, scribes, and Zodikite exile. So again, that's what these then you got the rest of us who think that, it could have been, I said, I'll go to the aliens, you know what I mean? Extraterrestrials that came down and were trying to teach people here, the humans that were here, how to live, how to exist, how to grow their own stuff, And I only say that because think of all these things that they found, out there by the Dead Sea, or just, other places. We were talking about even like the pyramids and stuff. There's pyramids around the whole world and the whole planet. There are pyramids in like every continent just about. And who taught those people to build them? They basically built identical. Little differences because of where they are, but So again, I said the Dead Sea Scrolls. Something else that I just came to my head. Sorry, guys. So they're saying that there was civilization, and around the time where Krakatoa blew, that's when everything changed. Like civilization had basically stopped because they were stuck in the dark,
right?
And then they came back around. You know what I mean? So I wonder if going with that thing, because it said, sorry, it just popped up. That was my history geek moment. But if that's what it was, that then the Dead Sea Scrolls predate Krakatoa.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Blowing up or, whatever.
Yeah.
And civilization started all over again, which is maybe why, like you then said, if it was only 1,000 years or 2,000 years.
I thought it was like 3,000-4,000, but I was.
Yeah. But even
but now when I think about it.
Yeah. But still that long. I mean, bro, that's a lot of time for people to come back around, I think.
But still, it's a long time, man.
Yeah.
To go that far back to history, and this is what they were doing. They find their teeth and they bury them with all this, everything is different, when they find certain things and how they were buried and
right. Yep.
how they were wrapped. It's crazy.
Just the beliefs as a whole, I think is wild,
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I think for me personally, I like to think about how life would be different for us.
It would be so harder then. You wouldn't want to live then.
Well, yeah, we didn't want to. We didn't want to live when there's still cowboys and Indians.
Yeah, I'm saying right, but that was hard. That had to be hard times living like that back in that day. And I'm sure, but for them it was every day, so it didn't matter, right? I guess same for us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
That was their thing, but still, I don't think we would want to go.
Oh no way, no.
And find out. Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you.
If I can go in like invisible just to watch and see, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll go do that, but I'm not gonna actually
exactly.
No way, man. No way, no how. So the Copper Scroll, that's
one that they say there's all this treasure, that it lists all the treasure that there is, but they still haven't found it, and they've looked for it. They still haven't found it.
And they looked for it where they found the scroll?
No, in that scroll.
Oh, in that scroll. Oh.
That's a copper scroll. It was carved in copper.
Ooh.
Onto that. So the copper was the pages.
Oh, that's groovy.
Yeah. And that's what was on there, and it lists all this treasure that they, no luck, they have not found any.
I'll bet money that they're looking in the wrong spot.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too. So where the Dead Seas, I wish I would have paid attention or looked to where it was, because now you think about way back when, how the land masses were, earthquakes, plates, the plates moving on the planet and whatnot. If the Dead Sea Scrolls was part of something else, another body of water, another valley or something, that's why they can't find it, because things have moved around. Make sense?
No, they were in caves. They were
no.
Caves.
They're talking about, you said looking for the treasure. That they can't find.
The treasure, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
right, and with the treasure, it'll probably be the same thing, right? They just stumble across it. Somebody who wasn't looking for it would find it.
Yep.
That's probably what would happen.
Yeah, because...
Or they may find it too, because they've found a lot of stuff just by...
Yeah, because, look...
Now what they have...
So in 1947 is when they first discovered it. So they find this...
Through 1956, and they found over 900 scrolls.
I'm saying, so it was in that time, from 47 to 56.
Right, and all that time they were studying.
And looking and finding it. But my question...
But it's taken them a while to piece
by the time they actually
put them together.
And no. But when
they were held,
a
lot of stuff was held back too.
Oh yeah, of course.
They were just starting getting released more in the 90s.
Right, because it was changing what religion was in a sense.
Because everybody thinks one thing, and then when you look at that, you go, okay. But then of course,
I think
it doesn't really matter.
We could talk about something like how, isn't there one that says turn a stone, there I am, or something.
Right, just put a piece of wood and you'll find me.
Yeah.
That's a quote from John Baptist. I think. I could be wrong.
But was it in the Dead Sea Scrolls? Wasn't that in the Dead Sea Scrolls?
It may have been.
They
also mention Jesus in it, but they don't mention him by name.
Right. So that was
as being persecuted.
Thing, meaning you don't need church. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
right.
basically like,
Yeah.
so like, no wonder why that's not in there. I'm not sure. We can get a little.
Yeah, no, we could.
Yeah, no.
get some
But there's a
highlights
lot of
in
stuff
there.
that comes
so-
from, because
Yeah.
that was mainly Jewish. And then, of course, it broke off and then it went its own directions and like everything else, right?
Right.
And then that's what they're finding out when they look at this stuff, how it grew and branched off. And,
Well, that's why
and
I
then
was
Catholicism
always.
came.
That's why I always
I
thought
should
that.
say Christian, not Catholicism.
Well,
Christian.
that's why I always thought the religion of was it Masonic Jews, the ones
Yes.
that Jews for Jesus, as they
Jews
call
for
them?
Jesus.
Right. Right.
But like
Christ.
that's always an interesting religion because they follow all the traditional Jewish practices, but in a sense they're Christian, but not
Right. Yeah.
what people think. Like they're Jewish, but they're technically the most
they believe a little
Christian
different.
Right.
of Christians
Yeah.
because they follow
Right.
the same.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so it is kind of weird how it just like branched off into
Yeah.
like.
Exactly.
That's they just like, oh, we'll get rid of all the Jewish traditions and we're gonna have new traditions. I wonder what made them say we're gonna stop these ones and continue these ones. But
Well, they started-
but the Masonic Jews do it
They
all.
bel-
I,
they
mean,
like-
I don't think they do any of the Christian. Maybe they do celebrate some of the Christian.
I don't know. They probably celebrate Christmas.
Do they get both? That's double holidays.
Oh, wow. Double whammy right there.
Yeah.
They
Double
probably,
holiday.
they probably say only one or the other. You can
Yeah.
like go
No. It's like having
Well,
divorced
it's like,
parents.
oh, we believe, yeah.
That's
You get
messed up.
double holidays.
Yeah. Get 2 birthdays.
Celebrate
Right.
Passover and Easter if they don't fall
Ooh,
across
bro.
each. Because well, sometimes they
Yeah.
crisscross.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're
It's all
like a
good.
week apart.
Close
so,
enough.
yeah.
It's all good. Close enough. That's funny as hell. See, that was
Right.
But no, you're right, bro.
It's
And
a
I
lot
think,
of feasting. Double.
but that's
You get a Seder dinner and an Easter dinner.
Right.
That's great. That is freaking hilarious.
Anyway.
But you said dinner, you made me think. But
Oh, check it
that's how easy. Oh, go ahead.
I just found this about the copper scroll. Unlike any other scroll, the engraved on copper lists hidden treasures, 64 underground hiding places with vast amounts of gold and silver and scrolls. Despite many efforts, no treasure has ever been found, fueling conspiracy theories and Indiana Jones style hunts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So people are like, we're gonna find this shit.
Right. Well, like I said, that goes back to what I was saying about Oak Island. You know, that's where you had to have that one. Put the hat on.
We could do it.
But that's what happened on Oak Island. You know, they're there looking for a treasure that they read in a book, and when they get there to find it, they're finding all kind of different, we'll say different kind of treasure. It's
Right.
not about the money; it's about and now changing history. You know
Well,
what I mean?
basically, you're finding out what they believed and how they lived. And
Right. And now, so finding these Dead Sea Scrolls, I think that's why they don't release everything in one shot.
They've
Well, not
released a
everything,
lot so
they let it-
far.
but I think they're just giving it out slowly. Because do you know, bro, the shock, that's a culture shock.
Well, I think, I would guess, not really. I mean, for those who are super religious and into it that much, and you know what I mean, I would guess. But I think at the same time, they probably push back on it anyway. But that's a whole other
Well,
story.
right. People will push back on it because I don't believe that. That's
Yeah, of
not
course.
what it was.
Of course
you know
they're
what I
going
mean?
to. And that's fine.
But
That's
because
fine.
they're stuck on it. But if this is what they read, you know, anyone with that to me,
Like I said,
how do I
earlier,
believe
they
the person
can,
that's reading it?
right.
You know, how do I believe that?
Well, these
person?
were people who actually just wrote. They were recording history, right?
No,
They weren't.
the people that are translating it right now. You know what I mean?
You're hoping that they're reading correctly.
That they can decipher it, not
Right.
because they're trying to change how people are, whatever. or
No,
what it
no.
reads, but because they mistook
Maybe a
a
letter
symbol for
or-
another
Right.
symbol. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that
Like
makes sense. Hey, listen, I'm
yeah.
sure they found those mistakes and done that before. We're
I
like,
hope
oh, wait,
so.
maybe it
Yeah,
was this one. and
Maybe it's
that one.
not. Yeah, maybe it's not the end of
Because
the
the
world.
writing
in
was totally
1925,
different then. I mean,
Right.
think about how they wrote in the ink and how they had to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's-
Parchment paper, I believe it
yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. How they did that.
was. That's right.
That it was wild. That was
And
cool.
what
Cool.
we understand, they did it on.
papyrus. Was
Yeah,
that what-
papyrus.
Papyrus.
Yes, just like the store.
That's a big word, papyrus.
Yes.
Papyrus.
But
Hey, papyrus.
Hey,
over
how you
here.
doing?
yo, how you doing? No, wow, that's it. Sorry, didn't mean to offend anybody.
Listen,
just,
so
you know.
wait.
But you know what? That's when I was asking, how did they know to write on this stuff that it was gonna last, 100 gazillion years?
They hit it. They hit it.
They hit it
hoping that maybe they were hiding it so nobody would find it.
So what was around it?
And we
Because I didn't
did.
even see too.
If the
started
kid
to
went in there,
excavate around it.
look for his goat.
Right. But I'm saying no, but they haven't. I wonder if they've excavated around.
No, it's hard
the
to get
cave.
to. They're caves. You can't just
Because
walk right
what if
over and
there
walk
was-
in them.
Yeah,
What if there was a building? That's what I'm saying.
No,
So,
you
like,
have to climb up into. They're like, it looks like there was water there, like it was part of that.
right. So then now
They have to
Dead
go
Sea
climb
Scrolls-
down from over and then get in.
So the scrolls being where they were,
think.
what was around there, what was on top, were there buildings or houses that were before the cliff, before you had to climb
No,
down?
I think that's where they
Somebody
stored
hid
stuff.
them in there.
I think that's what they did.
If there was actually land there, and that was the basement of a church, quote
No, I
unquote
think they were
church,
looking to
and
hide
the
them.
whole thing said,
Like the treasure, obviously, you
Yeah.
know, but they put them, and they, that's interesting stuff, though, when they find it and they come across it, they weren't looking for it, they didn't know about it, or maybe they were looking for it and they didn't know where to look, and then this kid comes along and boom,
yeah, I found it.
900 of them,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, crazy. It's good stuff, man. I
Yeah.
love it. As soon as that comes on, I'm watching it.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And-
insane.
But here's the question:
Uh-oh.
they were put.
That's what I'm
To
saying,
save,
bro.
so hopefully maybe they were. Maybe somebody would find them and know,
Yeah.
hey, this is what the real deal is and not
Yeah.
what you thought it was, or this is where it came from,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Or
or
it was that somebody was coming in to stop them from preaching, from saying that stuff, or letting
No,
it be
they
out.
had-
That's the truth.
what do you mean? I don't
So
understand.
he's talking about how did the Dead Sea Scrolls get into that cave?
It was people
and be
recording
there.
that history.
Right. So then why did they put it there, kind of quote unquote hidden?
I guess that was their way of keeping it safe and
Right.
Like a
Putting
time
some-
capsule,
like yeah,
oh,
almost.
oh,
I guess.
or maybe the person who knew where it was died, or something happened, or
But it wasn't
something
when
got
there was more
lost.
than one cave. If they found that one, obviously they found more. you
But
know.
like maybe there was a keeper of the
A,
secret,
a scroll keeper.
scroll keeper.
Who knows?
Yes,
That's what's so interesting
not a
about it. You know, it
sage
could be
giant, a
anything
secret
really. When you think of that
scroll keeper, or
time,
maybe
it's like
Yeah, yeah.
and maybe something happened.
you had no hot water, you had no toilet, you didn't have
Oh,
any of
jeez.
that.
Like
Yeah.
there might have been like a whole organization that was like keeping that stuff safe and preserved.
I don't know,
and
interesting.
then something happened, maybe some kind of catastrophe. Like it could be just an environmental,
Like some crazy
catastrophe.
library.
Like or like a volcano, or maybe it was the people on Pompeii all knew where it was. That was
I
like
wanna-
the secret keeping.
That's
You
one
know
thing
what
I-
I'm saying. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
bro, because they.
Oh wait, or was that before?
That was, no, this is supposed to be before. So that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
so
that
when
was before
Krakatoa,
Pompeii. Yeah.
This is before, right? So the Dead
Okay.
Sea Scrolls, and when they were written, was before, I believe, because if I read it right, then it's before Krakatoa blew. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Before Pompeii
Right.
was gone. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying. So then, and now they're starting to find, well, not now, I'm talking about the last 10 years or so, they've been finding the bodies on Pompeii.
How messed up would that be? Like the
Oh,
people
no, no,
who were
they-
the keeper of the Dead
well,
Sea
they've been around,
Scrolls
right.
Or
Well,
like
I'm
Kenny,
saying-
they've been
but
dug
they've
out for a
been-
long time.
But they've been digging out like more. Like
Oh,
they're
yeah,
digging
yeah,
out-
but
That's
they-
what I meant.
but
I didn't
you
mean
fi-
just the
but-
people
right.
now. Yeah, my fault. I didn't mean it like that.
Well,
I'm
no,
sorry,
I
you're
didn't.
right.
I'm not saying that. I mean, what I meant was just that that's been around for a long
Right,
time.
so then-
you can go there and see that.
And go
and
see that now. So
That's
now,
crazy.
in that same thought, that's what how the Dead Sea Scrolls ended up in the cave, like out of the way. They heard the big boom.
I don't think they were
and
near
for-
with these guys. Well, maybe they were. I don't
Well,
know.
supposedly that when Krakatoa blew, it covered the earth
Right.
in cloud, you know, because it hit so hard, it blew up the way that it blew up. I mean, not hit. So it blew up like that. And
So about the volcano or
yeah, the volcano.
okay.
Yeah. So then that could be,
true.
you know,
yeah, maybe.
people
knows?
heard that in, you know, so they saw
they
the-
didn't record
dark
it in the
skies
book.
and because they ran inside.
No, I think they're just caves. The way they kept the scrolls. That's where they hid them.
Oh, I thought you said that they didn't write about it. I was like, yeah, because they were hiding.
No.
they were
hiding.
They were hiding from the volcano.
But I'm saying
that
if they
just
if they did, I'm sure that would have been in there. I mean, they
Yeah.
just I would imagine.
Oh yeah, I'm sure too.
Maybe
yeah.
not,
Now that you
you
say
know?
so, but again, now we got to wait for that to for
Right.
that episode to come out. You know what I mean?
What about the war scroll that they talk
Now
about?
that one you started to tell me about.
Right? The war scroll details an apocalyptic battle between forces of good and evil, sons of light and evil, sons of darkness.
Mm.
The militaristic visionary. Some see it the ancient version of Revelation.
Sounds so mystical.
Because that's
Sounds like I
that's
see
why.
knights in fight in armor and
Well, I mean, think of I mean, there was a couple of
Dragons.
movies like that, and you think about if that's gonna be the epic fight when they show old paintings, of when they were talking about that they
Right.
see, people in the sky, the gods fighting.
Right.
That they think might have been aliens.
Yeah,
you look at all that stuff. The top of the Sistine Chapel, not 16, 15.
the Sistine. Yes, the
Sistine.
Sistine. Yes.
That it's all the angels up there, and that they're in and around the clouds and such. What a lot of these people saw and what they had in their drawings,
Right.
somebody may have seen it. This is me on my UFO stuff. That these things could have been written.
Well, it would be
from-
around the
I'm
same
with-
time of
hey,
Egyptians, of course. That,
I'm
the
with
you.
same
There you
time
go.
period.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Kenny, so
It's the same time period. All that's happening with around Egyptians, Romans, people, whatever period they were in that time, they
Right.
were around those. So yeah, I mean that makes sense. You have the pyramids being made, the Jews were building it, Moses.
Right, yeah, and
that's
that
all
kind
in
of
there
stuff.
too.
And that's why I'm saying, man. I
You know?
wonder. it's just, I can't believe how it was that, these things were hidden for so long.
Yeah.
They pop up now, and it's
Well,
just,
they haven't popped now. 1947.
well, not literally. I mean, figuratively.
Right.
It says 47. So in the last 80 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That
Got a lot of information from
so much information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So many things that are like, whoa, okay, now that makes sense. Whoa, now I see what it meant. What they may have said in the Egyptian or the Aztec carvings and stuff like that. What else you said? You saw?
No, I'm just saying it was. I think for that time,
I wonder what would happen if
recorded
that stuff
everything.
was found like now in like the age of like social media, where like it's almost hard. It's hard to like hide like news and stuff. Like you know what I mean, where people just record stuff on.
Yeah.
TikTok.
So
or
there's been a bunch
Instagram.
of funnies on social media
I
where
know.
the AI is doing like if they're Moses just turned around, yo, look what he's doing.
I've seen that.
He
Yeah.
spit
I
the
saw
water,
that.
whatever, and the people walking by.
But what I'm saying is like though, but like imagine
Excuse me.
if that stuff was found now, like.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be harder to hide. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
definitely.
Like they'd be like, oh, we're putting this together now.
Well,
we're not waiting, 20, 30
You know
years.
what?
You know
I would say to you that the people that would find it and they would quote unquote hide it, they wouldn't let them show the scroll open. Like you could see it start to open and then they won't let you see the rest. Like now you got to pan up here and look at them. This way you can't.
They
decipher
took
what's
very
on
good the way they were wrapped and everything. They really tried to make sure that they lasted. For that time they did pretty.
That's
It's
crazy, bro.
Yeah.
That is probably the craziest.
But it's so
that they
cool how the
lasted here.
how that happened.
Yeah.
Nobody was in the right place, and then they found them, and then they found all these scrolls and everything, and different information.
Yeah.
It's good
I'm
stuff.
still wondering, like, who are the keepers of these scrolls? Like, it has to be like lost information, and that happened somehow. Because it's just like, oh, we're gonna bury and forget about them. Like, who?
No.
Someone had to know about them.
But that's why
or
I'll
did
bet.
or did the people who did know about them, like, something happened to them?
That's why I'm saying I'll put money on that.
The missing
where-
scrolls. That's what
Yeah,
he's talking
that's
about.
right.
The missing.
They got it
scroll
here, man.
people.
So I'll bug out and say that where the scrolls were found in the cave was actually the basement of whatever building structure, whatever that was on
There were
top.
no buildings there,
and
bro.
you're
It's
not
all-
listening.
it's
You're
all
not
mountains,
listening.
bro.
You're not listening. I'm saying that because of where it was, and Tom is saying that it hasn't, that nobody's found it, like it just happened to be or whatever. That I'm saying there was structure around it at one time, not when they found the scrolls. At one time,
maybe at
that
one time
fell
there was a
apart.
big building,
It was a
yeah.
building on top
Oh,
of it.
I don't know.
The building is now gone.
Probably looked like something from Batman Begins.
Yeah, some craziness. Yeah, I'll go with that.
The League of Shadows
Yeah,
on the mountain.
just
you
some
know?
kind of craziness that was there, some monument.
Right away.
Yeah,
You know, I
hell
can't
yeah.
help
Aliens and
myself.
comics. Right away.
Because
we're geeks.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's great, man.
But
I don't know.
that-
That's a good.
only because, like you said, it was found on the shores of the Dead Sea.
Yeah,
The Dead Sea is now it is a big hole. So whether a meteor hit it, whether there was that alien fight that I like to just say that it was, that there was a super explosion. So that then if there were buildings that were there, there's already a town there. What was there before?
Yeah.
If something had that building that was there, again, we didn't look all this up
Right.
like that, but it's just, I don't know. I said that's where my head goes, that kind of stuff. Only because of how many things that have been found that are, as they dig, like all this sand has covered in Egypt. It has covered the, all that, all the housing that was there. with
Yeah,
the
everything.
villages and
Cities,
stuff.
everything.
You go to Easter Island and the heads are buried
put-
up
yeah,
to
not
their,
taking- now-
just the head up to their chin, and then as they start to dig and look, it's a full body.
Oh, yeah, it's
You know what
crazy. I
It's
love
like-
it.
It's like,
That's
holy
good stuff.
shit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I mean,
And why did they
that's-
make them? And what's the the meaning behind it? And who do they? Are they homage? Somebody.
Right. It was supposed to be paying
to-
homage and
homage to someone saying, "Hey, this is,"
Yep.
or to a god, or
but because of the way that they're standing, they're looking up to the sky.
Right.
Because of the
It's
way
crazy.
that their faces are. So that's why
amazing
I'm
when they
saying
try to
that
figure
then
it out.
These Dead Sea Scrolls,
Right.
I want to say, because that's just me, that they are, from another kind of a civilization.
well, of course they were. They
You know
were
what I
from
mean?
super early.
Yeah.
Where they, all that stuff and all that belief was coming in, and where you first kind of you're getting the roots of where it came and first started,
Yeah.
and how it began, which is great.
Yeah.
And then it just splintered off and went into those different directions through the years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's good
yeah.
stuff, man.
Yeah,
What
I
about
get it.
so the missing scrolls? Some believe important scrolls were hidden or suppressed by religious or governmental institutions, like the Vatican or Israel authorities.
Yes.
Conspiracy theories surged due to the slow publication process. Many scrolls were made public until the 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they kind of started letting them out and
Yeah.
people see. And now they're in certain museums. I know they're in museums in Israel for sure. I'm sure there may even be some here in New York or somewhere else in the United States where you could see them.
Oh,
For
really?
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Might have to
Yeah.
look into that.
That would be cool to see.
Yeah, definitely.
It is cool when you see them with your own 2 eyes. When you see
Because it's
something
so
like
Oh, yeah.
old. And
Bro,
you're
it's
like, wow,
insane.
somebody
Seeing
wrote on
something.
this
Mm-hmm.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
that,
In a little
you're
galaxy
seeing an
far,
artifact.
what?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
literally what it
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah.
like when you say it, you're like, oh, an artifact. But like when you see it,
Right.
it's-
Well, that's like when you go to the museum. You know what I'm saying? And you see all those things, you know, that they dug up. You know, they sat there with the paintbrush.
like
and
when
little
I was,
I think it's instinctive too for us to want to know it because we want to see where we came from and how we evolved at the same time, how we've grown. And some areas we haven't, and we're still working on it, but we have come a long way in some things. We
what's
have
creepy though is like in Italy, when you go to Italy, the old churches, like the ones that are like old churches, like the big giant ones from like the medieval days, they have relics in them. They have like the one relic is they had like a head of a virgin, not virgin, head of a virgin.
Holy crap.
Virgin. I'm thinking,
wait a
like,
minute.
The story was
I
gonna
think
go.
we're on the wrong religion here.
Yeah.
I was thinking Virgin Mary, saint, but no,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
saint.
You got it
I mean
backwards.
saint. I'm getting my words
Yeah.
confused.
I got
But
you.
It was a female saint, but they had her like head, like preserved, mummified head,
Alrighty
like
then.
Wow.
there in like this section of the church, because the churches are shaped like crosses. So
Yes.
when you walk in, so it's off to one of the side things.
Right.
Oh.
I've seen that where they build them like that. They were built
But
like that.
but like they have relics. Like it's so creepy. Like it's just
Yeah.
a head.
There's
like,
so much
they piece,
history, you know.
Yeah.
There's so
But
much
it's so
information.
weird. They piece out the saints like in pieces. Like another saint, another church got like the hand.
Get that? Yeah.
It's like
That's sad, bro. Dude.
Okay, so and the same for that as well,
Right. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. It's gonna be wild when they finally.
Hey, we're giving out
yeah,
body
that's
parts
it.
now,
Yeah,
all right?
Yeah. No, I'm good.
For
I'm
our
good.
appreciation,
Well, that-
we want to share our new.
But you know
saint.
what? Though? That's kind of where like there's an overlap. I think of like I'm getting a little off topic, but I just want to say it
Here
real
we
quick,
go.
that
Yeah.
like paganism like overlaps with like
Well, I'm sure this
big
ties.
religions. Like they probably believe that like the saint gives the church like a special blessing.
Right.
It has a mystical, has a
Yeah.
protective power.
Right.
I think what's interesting is that each one of those things, whether it's people who lived in Israel and Egypt and all those areas of the world, and you get this information, but you have all these other cultures too, that you get their history at the same time period. What was going on with them? What were they doing? You know, which is really to see what other civilizations do.
Yeah.
So
Right,
like you
right,
brought up, Vikings and all that. I mean,
Or
that's
paganism. Yeah,
paganism,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
you know, that's just
Yeah.
paganism was absolutely
Well,
where
it's like
a lot of
ener-
this
but I'm
came
talking-
from too.
But I mean, like a lot of they believe in energies, and like
Right.
the same
Right.
thing they believe.
They believed in the earth,
So if these relics are believed to have special energies, to bless the church. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, but that's just so they piece them out, which I don't. Don't forget what they did that. It was the medieval times.
Right.
It was,
Or,
the mindset then was a lot
Yeah.
way.
They were
That's what I'm
torturing
saying.
people.
Yeah,
they were
think
doing
about
all
the-
to believe this.
Think of the mindset then.
The-
and think of
they
us
had
now,
the Spanish
you know what I mean?
Inquisition.
Right.
The
The
church was doing a lot of-
Inquisition.
yeah.
The Inquisition.
Yeah.
I knew you guys were going
I
to go
know.
into that. That was just like hook, line, and sinker.
Hell yeah.
But, no, but like they were doing a lot of
Right.
the church was doing a lot of weird stuff with that.
Listen, yeah, religion in general,
can't
but,
hide that.
but
That was
I think the
actually
thing
happening.
that I'm fascinated about is not really. I mean, I'm fascinated by that stuff too.
Having
but
pieces of
the birth, where it came from, why it became the way it did, how the interesting part of how people found it on their own to
yeah.
what was it that got them going to do what they started and
Right.
and then continue it on. You know
it
what I
was
mean?
to
That's
finally get
interesting. It's very
people-
interesting.
We'll get people to live. And it sucks to say it like that, but get people to be good to one another. That's a better way of putting it. For there to be kindness, and this is the writings that they had originally. You know what I mean? This is how to be kind to somebody.
Right.
This is how you should be, and this is what they try to preach or practice.
Right.
And people believe that it should be a little bit different how we do it, and that's where all the different sects come from. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
we
religions and stuff.
definitely come a long way as far as that is concerned when it comes to that. I mean, but sometimes I wonder. That's a whole other podcast.
The who?
Conspiracy theories.
Yes. Oh, that's
Who
another
wrote the
one. We did that one.
scrolls? Most scholars
And-
believe they were written by or belong to the Essenes, apocalyptic Jewish sect that lived communally, Qumran. Others suggest a mix of sources, including priests, scribes, and
The Gnostics, or no?
Zodiacites. Zodiacites. That's an interesting word.
Yeah.
Or two words, I should say. But yeah. So again, these are things I've never heard of before. You know,
Right.
we're just used to what we know, and then when we find out this, oh wait a minute, this, oh wait a minute, yeah, because it needed to come from somewhere else in order for it to be what it is now.
Right.
You know, like everything else in life,
Yeah.
it matures and it takes off and it goes in
Yeah.
its own direction.
Yep.
Hopefully for the best,
Yes.
of course. But I find this stuff very interesting. I always do, and when I see it on the telly,
Yeah.
I want to watch it because I'm a geek and I
Yeah.
like that stuff.
Well, I don't even know. I think this is. Well, I don't know. We're gonna call history buff a geek. I don't know.
Yeah, why not? I don't care.
This guy. I'm just saying because I'm kind of a history buff too.
You know,
A little
I
bit
love
of
it.
that stuff. I like all that. You know.
Yeah, all of that stuff is good.
It's just awesome, you know, to find these, to hear about them, to be able to read
Right.
them and hear what they are, and you know, like I said again, I think they only let out a little at a time, so this way people don't, you know, the masses.
But they're
don't
letting it
bug
out, so that's a good
yeah,
part.
Yeah, definitely. You know how everybody's thinking is yeah, it's
It just shows you, okay, wait a minute, we got this.
yeah,
Not that it was wrong, but it was made because things changed. It took
Right,
it was like
right.
a telephone, right?
right,
It started here and then
Yes,
it just went.
Translation.
right. Translation
All over the
just
place.
changed up. I'll go with
It
that.
took a life of its own and went in different directions, and then
Like
this
in-
is where
in-
we're
like
at.
Like in the Bible at the end, I forget what it is.
Actually,
What where it says like where like the end of the times and stuff, like says where it says I'll see you at the end of time or whatever, or he'll be back at the end of time, and that's supposed to be like the end of the world. But the scholars now believe that that was wrong, because if you translate it to aeon, which aeon is a specific set of time, so the return will be in like 2,500 years or over 2,000 years.
wow,
Right.
it's a long time to wait, not for
Yeah.
nothing.
Right.
I mean, I don't know why that'd be so
Kind of
long.
like now though. I'm just
You're gonna do it, yeah. Now would be a good time.
but anyway,
Well, no, well because
but
again,
not the
it's-
end of the world. It's
Right.
just
That
end
they
of
would
an
just come back.
aeon,
Get it.
for a
Right.
specific set of time.
Yeah, because I mean, think about it. You know, it's 2,000 years for us
Yeah.
isn't the same as 2,000 years when people go off the sorry, when they go off planet. Because remember that was one thing that we were talking about. That when you go off planet and you're going into space, people here grow old.
Right.
You don't when you're out in
Well,
space.
if you're going to travel the speed of light, you will definitely be
Right.
younger when you come back.
Right. So
And
now
they'll be super old, or they
again,
already are.
see? So I'm going to throw it back into that UFO shit. That if it was like that, that when that 2,000 years for us, 2,500 years for us, isn't the same for somebody traveling through space.
That'd be
Yeah, I went
interesting.
there again. Just saying. Bro. Love that shit. Yeah, well, yeah. Listen, and all day
Twilight
Twilight
Zone,
Zone,
baby.
all day Twilight Zone. You know,
Absolutely.
What was the name? There was that movie that they had that portal, and they were able to decipher it, and they walked through it. They had a TV show on it.
Oh
too.
yeah,
are able to, release, give out, talk.
Explore ancient mysteries. Like, share, subscribe for more adventures.